Okay, new location here. It's actually kind of a nice little enclave off of the walkways around the Capitol. You have these little just kind of places where you can get a drink if you're on a run or something like that. I don't know what it's called here. I know I don't know. But anyway, you don't have as good a Capitol view here, but hopefully you'll like it and there won't be as much wind. It's very windy today, so I'm going to just sit here and then do the rest of the stuff from here if you can hear me. So let's do it this way, frame it that way. So you got the Capitol in there so you know where we are. So I'm breaking with Q today if what I understand is true, what I understand from just speaking with task force is true. And that is if he is saying somehow that the uranium-1 spinning was taking place anywhere in Syria, to me, that is just so ridiculous. I can't believe it. And I'm not going to be any part of Q anymore if that is what he's saying. The reason I say that is just because I know the sensitivity of the nature of this delicate equipment. It has to be run at constant speed, constant temperature, cannot have dust in it and so forth. It's got to be constantly monitored environment, et cetera. You don't want that on a battlefield. You don't want that in the middle of the front lines. And up until about 2015, at some point, Aleppo was in the control, that area was in control of ISIS. So in order to say that there was somehow yellow cake coming into Syria and being processed into Syria is just the most ridiculous thing I could ever possibly imagine. And it's one of those things where it's kind of almost like slavery. I mean, in a family where it breaks up the family and it breaks up the brothers don't talk to each other anymore and everything. I mean, I cannot in my mind in any possible way. Now, if you said it was a chemical weapons plant, I could say yes. And the Israelis hit a chemical weapons plant because I showed pictures of Dilyana going through and showing the chemical weapons. I showed when the chemical weapons were captured. I go back to, I want to say about a year ago. I think it was around the end of December 2016 where they actually captured the stores of the weapons. So I think it's been, if they had a uranium program, it's been going on exactly 1 year, not very long. So it doesn't seem, that just seems to be for full control of Aleppo, in order for the IRG to have full control of Aleppo, would have only happened at the end of 2016, which means you would have had a full year and 3 months to spin uranium. No way they would have ever put centrifuges in there. What I'm saying is I look at all the data, I look at the full flight of the data, and I say, no, I know the centrifuges were taken from Paducah. I know that the Department of Energy paid for them and redirected them to Iran. I don't know if those are the Fordow. I believe maybe those are the Fordow, but I'm not sure. But then the same thing happened with Paducah. Get the money from the Department of Energy and divert it to Iran. When I hear things like the containers didn't go from UAE over to Iran, when I hear that there wasn't flights from Dafra Air Force Base over to these different free zones where all the engineers would be in Iran from the kind of the neutral zone from Germany and France, I can't subscribe to anybody who is saying that. To me, I immediately think, oh my God, this is another, Army PSYOP, and it just smacks Army PSYOP to me. And I told this to task force, and I said, if that's the direction that you think it's going, we're going to be good friends, but we're not going to be able to help each other in research. That's just the way it is. I'm not going to. It's almost like sometimes when the family's putting the pieces of the puzzle together and they have a disagreement about the puzzle pieces. If we're actually talking about two different puzzles at this point, and I'm not going to take the puzzle piece and then take the hammer and bang in the piece to try to make uranium-1 fit into Syria. That's just ridiculous. If Q gets mad at me about that, I don't really care because it's a PSYOP at that point. This reminds me so much of Trust Sessions. When Q said Trust Sessions, I immediately say, that's it for me. I'm out of here. Have fun with Q. I'm out, right? And this is the same thing. And Task Force showed me this eastern border this map of where these yellow cake spots were supposed to be of Syria, right? And maybe depleted uranium stores, but not yellow cake uranium being spun. Urenco is in UAE. AQ Quan worked for Urenco. The uranium did not go to Aleppo. It didn't go to Syria. It didn't go to Turkey. It went to UAE. UAE had the 123 agreement in 2009. That's, you know, the UAE ambassador is the one down at the Navy Yard who has all these foundations, and he's the one who has all the Dumbo Drop stuff with Oteba. So I'm not, anything that doesn't start with UAE shipping the yellow cake across the Strait of Hormuz or flying it, one of the two, I'm open to how it got there. But anything that doesn't have UAE flying the stuff over to usually a free zone, I'm out. I'm out. If that's what Q's saying, I'm completely out. And I know that sometimes upsets people and whatnot, and I've had this situation happen where, you know, people have dropped away from the research. You know, they just don't think that I'm on the right track. They think Q's the right way to go. I've had this happen with a lot of people, and I have to tell them, I'm sorry. I cannot take the hammer and hammer the piece of the puzzle in. It's UAE, it's gotta be from the rack, or it's gotta be from Dubai or Abu Dhabi. I'm open to what emirate it left from. I'm open to, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be the Maersk, but it's going to be a containerized diplomatic container, because that's what AQ Quan got caught doing. That's what he admitted to doing in the New York Times. How can I can't put words in AQ Quan's mouth. He's the one who worked for Urenco. I didn't. John Hill's the one who said Urenco shipped it out of Port of Montreal, the yellow cake, to places in Asia and places in Europe. I mean, there's now chemical weapons, absolutely. I'm with you 100%. There was a CIA base in Turkey over the border. There, you know, the Ghouta attack, the Aleppo attack, chemical weapons. I'm with you all day long. But any kind of nuclear facility, unless they're saying they were propping up a nuclear missile, which may be different. But Israel hit a storage unit, IRG, I think it was Brigade 47 or 46, that was trying to move the chemical weapons stores that were left over from ISIS back to Iran. And Israel hit it before they could move it back. And they tried about a week ago and hit it. And I think they used a bunker buster. I think they used an F-35, and it didn't do the job. And so unfortunately, they had to wait for the brigade to actually start moving the stuff to get it out of the revetment to hit it when it was out of the revetment. Now, to me, that just makes sense. Unfortunately, a lot of people got killed. Unfortunately, the bunker buster didn't work, or was very minimally effective a week ago. But they had intelligence that they were going to move the chemical weapons back to Iran, and you just can't have those weapons on the loose. And they were told, they were warned. I believe they were warned, and Iran went and did it anyway. And I believe the same thing is going to happen again and again. So I think it's time for all the PSYOPs guys, you know, to come forward and just give it up. The metadata is not going in your direction, and you're making yourselves look ridiculous. If you know, go like this with the Etch-a-Sketch Q and say, hey, okay, I'm sorry, I had a bad day. We're going to start with the UAE. We're going to start with AQ Quan. We're going to start with Urenco. We're going to start in probably Shafar, and then let's work out how it got into Iran from there. But this idea of somehow let's go to another country, let's go to some place that makes absolutely no sense where they would be enriching uranium, just makes absolutely no sense to me. And I understand where people might think, hey, you know what? You're wrong, George. I'm out of here. I'm checking out. And I understand that. You know, I understand those decisions. But I just can't do it. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. There's just no way else to say it. You are not going to be processing or any part of the uranium cycle. I don't care if you're making fuel rods. I don't care if you're spinning it from natural uranium to 3.5%, from 3.5% in a medical facility up to 20%. Maybe there was around Damascus a couple of medical reactors, potentially. But why would Iran spin that in a foreign country that's under control of ISIS? It just, again, makes no sense whatsoever. You would do that in an area where you had control. You would put it underground, deep underground. You would tunnel. Look at the tunnel pictures I showed today. I showed the various regiments and so forth that were in the tunnel. I mean, I didn't dig the tunnel. I mean, I didn't take the picture. Don't get mad at me. So, I mean, I produced the photos, I produced the evidence, and if Q wants to speculate or do the fortune cookie thing, you know, good luck to all the people who want to do the fortune cookie thing with Q. But I have to go on the evidence. I have to go on the facts and the pictures and the things that make sense. The people who have had a past history of exfiltrating technology, AQ Quan, companies have had a past history of exfiltrating technology, Urenco, news stories that line up with that, John Solomon, the Hill, with Uranium One, people that I've met along the way, like Mark Lambert, whose wife speaks two kids speak Farsi, wife speaks Russian. I said it was the Russian engineering in the free zone. It was all these kids being recruited by Jeff Sterling in New York, Andy McCabe. I mean, everything lines up. So I can't make time go backwards. I can't hit the puzzle piece to make it go in the puzzle if it's that wildly wrong. And in this case, Q is wildly wrong, and it immediately makes me think Tony's Q and it's all a psyop. You know, I mean, just like this is, you know, gone wildly off the rails, and I can't, you know, I just can't be any part of it. It's like, you know, I never want to be lectured by an Army psyops guy anyway, and like Scott Bennett thing just seems so exactly the same as what Jerome Corsi did with about the Swiss bank and the 20,000 accounts. How could two cases come out in 2012, a couple of weeks from each other? One is HSBC, which has had a long history, a 200-year history of drugs, right, and gun running, and building up these gangs for security, right, and go all the way back to the viceroys of India and the, you know, the Sikhs and all the falderall and pomp and circumstances and tripping of the color and all that British crown crap, right? I mean, this is old news to HSBC and BCCI, right? So I have to go on history, and then all of a sudden somebody out of, you know, Union Bank all of a sudden is the guy. And, you know, here's Jerome Corsi sitting with Cruz saying, you know, hey, here's the accounts, and I went and visited the place, and it was a place that had, they said they did 10 million a month or 10 million a year in packaging, and there was like one package a month they sent out. It was a little, you know, toothbrush package. So, you know, I got to go with the Corsis, who actually have people sitting there telling the actual truth, referencing back to the actual Senate hearings and actual hearings at the House. If I want to see Scott Bennett go head-to-head with Jerome Corsi and Cruz, and let's see who wins that battle, because I'm with Corsi on this one. Show me the films of this guy, you know, talking to the Senate. And, you know, I'm not saying you can't put a reality winner up here. You can put a reality winner up here like Bill Browder. You know, you can go kill off everybody owning a legitimate business in Russia, and, you know, with your little spy ring, you know, your Deripaska spy ring, your Andy Deripaska little spy ring, and that's what they did. That's what Prevazon Capital did. That's what Bill Browder did. That's how they got all the money. Then they laundered it all through Gubarov, right, in Cyprus. So, I mean, show me a similar situation where that you actually interviewed the person like Corsi did, and interviewed Cruz. I would say everybody go back and watch that film of the guy saying, hey, here's the 19,000 accounts, here's exactly how much money, here's how it moved through, here are the type of front businesses. Direct testimony. And then he went up to Congress and testified. And he talks about the dates he went up there. Now, I want Scott Bennett to do the same thing. Tell me what dates the guy went up there. And then have you two battle it out. Tell me which one it was. Did we launder the money for the Iran Manhattan deal, the Iran nuclear development deal? Did we launder it through Cruz, or did we launder it through an HSBC, or did we launder it through Swiss Union, or whatever the heck bank they came up with? I just don't like Army PSYOP guys telling me history, first off, and it makes me think about Abel Danger, and it makes me question Flynn, actually, to be quite honest. You have to come forward and get in the fight, and I just think that whatever charge, if you're cleared, then you need to get in the battle and wade in here with everybody else. And people say, well, you know, you're better, you know, you better travel together, you're better off, your survivability is better. I don't really care about survivability. I'm not going to go one step without telling the truth. Got a big group from somewhere. Where are you guys from? New York, go New York. Okay, yeah. So there you have it. We got New York here. So 1775. Of course he's overweight. Well, I guess so. I'm overweight. I mean, you know, a lot of us are overweight. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean he's spot on with that. And, you know, I would just like to see him go at it with Scott Bennett. Tell me which one's right. You know, compare your notes. Put your guy, whatever his name was, Bill, and I'm not saying Bill Brander or Blankenship or Blankenhauer or whatever Scott Bennett's guy is any more right than Cruz is. I've just seen the interview with Cruz. I haven't seen the interview with Blankenhauer or Blankenship or Blankenfelder or whatever the guy's name is. So yeah, we're at the Opium Dome. So I wonder what part of New York, a big group from New York here. So anyway, I can understand where people want to go different directions in terms of research. I get it. You know, there's certainly many million more people following Q, and I have a very, very small, limited audience. But as I said, I don't really care about audience size. I care about researchers and people who are willing to do Google searches, and we actually get at the truth. I mean, the focus keeps going in on this Iran deal. We know the Iranians are the ones behind it. We know that they're the only ones who could have that kind of state support that could move this kind of information for this big a program. Bibi has laid the foundation. This is the Iran Manhattan Project. He's laid the foundation with all the documents here. This is a very big thing that's happened over a long period of time, over a 17-year period. He's laid the foundation. This is the Iran Manhattan Project. Now we have to come back in and go, okay, where did they get all the pieces? We're kind of like figuring out, well, here's what it looks like. They spun things at Oak Ridge, and it looks like at Fort Bliss they did this, and it looks like over here at you know, Sandia they did the explosive lens testing, and over there in, you know, Los Alamos they did the you know, uranium and you know, whatever uranium fixtures, and up in Lawrence Livermore Lab they had the cyclotron to see what happened at high energy to the uranium, etc. That's what we have to do. We have to keep functionally decomposing this problem to figure it out. We can't go look in another country that was a war zone, that was under the control of ISIS, and somehow say, oh, that's where uranium 1 was. Oh, that, you know, Aleppo was a nuclear site. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That even the thought of that is just such a ridiculous thing. There's been 10 different groups on 10 different days controlling that area. How could you be spending uranium in a delicate operation that requires a 24-hour-a-day maintenance where nothing can jiggle? Even jiggle, right? It's supposed to be a very delicate operation. You need all kinds of power going into that. So power lines would have been cut. There's just no logical in no universe could Q be right about uranium 1 in Syria. None, zero. And anybody who says that, I say good luck to you. Go off and, you know, I hope you solve a million mysteries, you know, with uranium 1 in Syria. Good luck. I'm sticking with the metadata. I cannot turn my back on the metadata. This is an overwhelming, crushing case of metadata with UAE sending the yellow cake to, which I know I've said that for a year, but it's a crushing case of the yellow cake. And look at the conspirators as well. All the conspirators had control of the uranium. We have Bob Highly Enriched Mueller in Tbilisi with the HEU, with an email from Hillary Clinton saying, I want you to show it to so-and-so, which is an obvious intermediary point to Iran. So, I mean, we have these people in control of the, he was with NNSA, okay? I'm not speaking about things I don't know about, right? I know that they track this stuff. I know they have agents galore to track this stuff. Andy McCabe, when offered 200 agents or to classify more data, what did Kennedy at the State Department say? I can get you 200 more agents in Iraq. Why? Why 200 more agents in Iraq? Was that for a uranium 2 railroad into Iran? Now I realize there's an overland connection between Iraq and Iran. Maybe that's how this stuff went originally between Attar and Katak, you know. But here you got two guys that are two guys. One's an Iranian, the other's an Iraqi, in the same car dealership. They're 3 feet away from each other, right? In this dealership that processes these millions of dollars called CIA car dealership, right? I mean, I can't walk away from that. I can't all of a sudden go to Syria and say, oh, I'm going to dream up something that happened in Syria. I can't. Yeah, Q follows me. I don't follow Q. I don't think I've ever followed Q. Every once in a while, I've looked at his stuff every once in a while. I think a lot of it is fortune cookie statements. You know, in the spring will be a time for growth. You know, it's a lot of pabulum to me. Every once in a while, he'll say something that is, you can tell is classified. And I jump on that stuff. I pick out the nuggets and move on if he's off track. He's way off track right now. And right now I'm saying, Tony, wake up, wake up. They're not going to buy this bullshit. It was kind of like trust sessions. They're not going to buy the bullshit, Tony. They're not going to buy the bullshit. I don't know if it's Tony Schaefer. A lot of the metadata to me, a lot of the signatures looks like Tony Schaefer. Some of it looks like Flynn. I certainly hope Flynn wasn't trying to deceive Robin Gritz in her investigations. But I'm losing faith in Mike Flynn now because of this thing with Tony and Q. So that's just my metadata read. That's not in stone, but that's just my metadata read. I'm losing a lot of faith in Tony right now, and I'm losing faith in Flynn.